The last time you felt your toes. Not just noticed them, but truly felt them. The weight of the blanket across the tips. The coolness of the floor in the morning. That quiet, unquestioned connection. If you can't remember, or if that feeling is dulled into something distant and strange, what I'm about to tell you matters more than almost any other health advice you will hear this year. This isn't about your age. It isn't about the natural wear and tear of a life well lived. It's about a signal, a quiet, almost polite warning your body has been sending you for months, maybe years. And the tragedy isn't that the signal is subtle. The tragedy is that most of us were never taught the language to understand it. You see, your feet are the canary in the coal mine for your entire metabolic health. They are the farthest outpost, the longest distance from the engine room, and the first to run out of fuel when the system starts to fail. By the time a diagnosis arrives, the damage is already done. It has been done for a long time. The loss of a simple, soft sensation is the herald of a much larger storm gathering on the horizon. Tonight, I'm going to teach you how to read that signal. I'm going to show you a test that takes 30 seconds and uses nothing but your own finger. And more importantly, I'm going to give you 3 immediate, scientifically proven fixes that can start turning the tide before your next meal is even over. But first, you have to understand the machinery. High blood sugar is sticky. Imagine pouring a thick syrup into a complex, delicate network of tubes, the smallest of which are thinner than a human hair. That is what happens inside your circulatory system when glucose runs high for too long. Your blood vessels, particularly those microscopic ones at the edge of your fingers and toes, get coated. They narrow. They stiffen. The heart is a powerful pump, but by the time the blood reaches your feet, the pressure has dropped to nearly nothing. So these tiny, compromised vessels struggle to deliver life-giving oxygen and nutrients to the longest nerves in your body. And the sugar itself is toxic to those nerves. It gets inside the fibers and, over time, transforms into a compound that slowly poisons them from the inside out. This is a dual assault. A starving nerve that is also being pickled in a toxic brew. It's no wonder the first signs are so strange. A subtle tingle, a feeling like your foot is half asleep, a burning sensation that creeps in the moment you lie down and the day's distractions fade away. This is called neuropathy, and the frightening truth is that it can begin years before your blood sugar levels officially cross the line into diabetes. It is the whisper before the shout. Now, let's talk about the test that turns this whisper into a clear sentence. We use a variation of this in clinics worldwide, and it's astonishingly effective. Sit down in a comfortable chair. Take off your shoes and socks. You can do this yourself, but the results are more accurate if you have someone else perform it, someone who can see the whole picture. Here's the process. You're going to close your eyes. If you're doing it to yourself, look away. You don't want the anticipation of sight to trick your brain. Now, take the tip of your index finger, not the pad, the very tip, and on the big toe of your right foot, place it down as lightly as a feather resting on a leaf. Just rest it there for a second or two. Not a press, not a poke. The sensation should be so light that it feels almost like nothing. Then lift it off. Do the same on the middle toe, then the little toe, then switch to your left foot. Big toe, middle toe, little toe. What you are looking for is clarity. A healthy nerve ending will report this feather-light touch every single time without hesitation. You should feel a distinct pinpoint sensation on each toe. Here is where the test becomes revealing. If you cannot feel that light contact on one or two spots, your nerves are beginning to lose their fine-tuning. They are struggling to send the signal back to your brain. If you feel nothing at all on one toe, while the corresponding toe on the other foot feels perfectly clear, that is an asymmetry, a disparity. It tells you something is wrong on one side and the other is working. And if you feel a strong, clear sensation on one foot and a muffled, indistinct, or absent feeling on the matching toe on the other foot, that is a significant sign that you need to schedule a conversation with your doctor. Not a panic, but a prompt, intelligent action. Many people will find this test strangely confronting. It makes the intangible tangible. If you passed the test, that is excellent. It means your system is still intact. But it is not a free pass. The absence of a problem today is a gift, not a guarantee. If the test revealed something, understand what you are dealing with. The tingling and burning that you can still feel is the earlier, more reversible stage of nerve irritation. It is the nerves screaming for help. Total numbness, where your skin feels like it's wrapped in cotton, or you simply don't feel anything at all, is a later, more concerning stage. The screaming has stopped. The nerve is exhausted and has given up. So, what do you do? Do you simply wait for your next checkup and hope for the best? Or do you take the steering wheel and actively change the trajectory? I have 3 strategies that can fundamentally alter how your body handles sugar. These are not vague suggestions. They are specific, research-backed actions that address the root of the problem. The first fix is the one we all know but routinely ignore. It is movement. But it's not about running a marathon or spending hours in the gym. It is about the 10-minute window immediately following a meal. Here is the science. When you eat a meal, especially one containing carbohydrates, your blood sugar inevitably rises. Your body's job is to bring that sugar down. It normally does this with insulin, which acts like a key, unlocking your cells to allow the sugar in. But when you're insulin resistant, the key doesn't fit as well. The sugar stays in your blood. However, there is a secret back door. When you contract a muscle, even just by walking, that muscle can pull sugar straight out of the bloodstream to burn for energy. And it does this almost completely without insulin. It bypasses the broken key system entirely. So if you go for a 10-minute walk right after dinner, your large leg muscles are actively pulling the sugar out of your blood exactly when it is peaking. This is not just speculation. Researchers in Washington found that older adults who took 3 short walks after meals controlled their blood sugar far better than those who took 1 longer walk earlier in the day. The timing is everything. It's about intercepting the sugar wave as it arrives. If walking is hard for you, you can simply stand up and do slow heel raises at the kitchen counter. Go up on your toes and down. That simple motion uses the massive calf muscle, one of the biggest pumps in your body, and it will draw sugar down. The worst thing you can do for high blood sugar is to eat a large meal and then sit in a chair for 2 hours. That is the perfect recipe for a massive spike. Let the couch wait 10 minutes. Move first. Now the second fix is so simple it almost sounds ridiculous. Yet it is one of the most effective tools we have. It has nothing to do with what you eat, and everything to do with the order in which you eat it. You can have the exact same plate of food, the same calories, the same portions, and completely change your blood sugar response simply by rearranging the sequence. Researchers at a leading medical college put this to the test. They took people with high blood sugar and fed them a standard meal twice. On one occasion, they ate the bread and starchy foods first. On another, they ate the vegetables and protein first, leaving the starches to the end. The results were staggering. The blood sugar spike was nearly 30 to 40% lower when they ate in the second order. The same food, a massive difference. Why does this work? It's about physics and digestion. Vegetables are packed with fiber. When this fiber enters your stomach first, it forms a kind of mesh or net. When the sugar from the bread or rice arrives later, it has to weave its way through this net to get to the intestinal wall, slowing its absorption dramatically. Protein also helps. When it arrives early, it sends a signal to your gut to release hormones that slow down the entire digestive process, priming your pancreas for the task ahead. By the time the potato or dessert arrives, your body has already prepared. The sugar enters gently, like a trickle rather than a flood. So, stop piling your plate. Start sequencing it. Greens first, then the chicken, fish, eggs, or beans. Then, and only then, the rice, the bread, or the sweet fruit. You don't have to deprive yourself. You just have to be strategic. The third fix is a trick that has been used for centuries but only recently backed by rigorous science. It's a simple, cheap kitchen staple. A tablespoon of ordinary vinegar in a glass of water before a heavy meal. Vinegar slows down the enzymes in your gut that are responsible for chopping up carbohydrates. You know the feeling of eating a piece of bread and having your blood sugar spike almost immediately? That's the rapid action of these enzymes. By drinking a little vinegar first, you are essentially putting a brake on this process. The starch breaks down more slowly, and the sugar is released into your system at a much more manageable pace. It's not a miracle cure, it's a performance enhancer for your gut. And for people who are insulin resistant, the effect is often the most pronounced. Now you need to do this safely. 1 tablespoon of apple cider vinegar or plain white vinegar in a tall glass of water. Always diluted, never straight, as it can damage your throat and tooth enamel. Drink it 15 minutes before your most carb-heavy meal. And while we're talking about that glass of water, don't underestimate the power of the water itself. When you are even slightly dehydrated, your blood volume drops and the sugar in your blood becomes more concentrated. It's the same amount of sugar, but it has less fluid to dissolve in. As we get older, our thirst mechanism fades, and many of us walk around mildly dehydrated all day. Drinking water steadily throughout the day is a foundational step that too many people skip. So we have the movement after the meal, the change in eating order, and the pre-meal vinegar. But all of this requires one small, humbling admission. You have to look at your feet. This is not just a casual glance. You have to become a detective for a part of your body that may have stopped reporting to you. When a nerve goes numb, it stops reporting pain. A small pebble in your shoe, a seam rubbing, a blister forming, a cut from a toenail. On a healthy foot, all of these things hurt instantly, and you deal with them in minutes. On a numb foot, you feel nothing. And over a few days, that tiny blister can become an open sore that can lead to a serious infection that can ultimately threaten your entire leg. So once a day, when your socks come off, inspect your feet. Look at the tops, the sides, and the soles. If you can't see the bottoms, use a hand mirror on the floor. Check for redness, a cut, a hard callus, or a spot that feels warmer than the rest. This 20-second practice is how you prevent the catastrophic consequences of neuropathy. Now, I want to draw a sharp line. Some problems are not for the kitchen table. If you see an open sore, any swelling, or if a part of your foot suddenly turns pale or cold, that is not a slow process. That is an emergency that needs immediate medical attention. Don't wait. Don't test it. Get it looked at. To ground all of this, let me tell you about a man named Richard. I've had many patients like him, and his story is a composite of everything I've seen over the years. Richard was a man in his late 60s, a proud man who had worked with his hands his entire life. He came to see me not because of his blood sugar, but because of a strange buzzing in his toes at night and a sense that he was starting to trip a little more often. He thought it was just a part of getting older. I performed the simple touch test on him. He could feel his big toes clearly, but when I touched the little toe on his left foot, he felt absolutely nothing. It was like touching a piece of wood. His blood work came back, and his numbers were well into the danger zone. He had been living with prediabetes for years and had no idea. I didn't put him on medication. Instead, we began with the exact same strategies I've just shared with you. After dinner, he walked around the block with his dog. He started his meals with a big salad and left the bread for last. He had a little vinegar and water before his largest meal. He worked with his doctor to monitor his progress. It took months, but his blood sugar numbers slowly dropped out of the red zone. His feet didn't heal overnight, but the buzzing quieted. It stopped getting worse, and at his stage, that was the victory. The last time I saw him, he was back on a small ladder, carefully fixing his own gutters. He had kept his independence. He had kept his life. The thread that weaves all of this together is simple. Your blood sugar spikes the most immediately after you eat, and that is the moment when you can do the most about it. But there's one final piece of information that I don't want you to miss. There is a strange, counterintuitive situation that baffles almost everyone who starts monitoring their numbers. We're talking about the morning spike. You can do everything right the night before. You walk, you eat your meal in the right order, you hydrate. You wake up the next morning, and your blood sugar is higher than it was when you went to bed. It's devastating, and it makes you feel like a failure. But it's actually your liver. It's doing something you were never told about. It's a natural process, but for those with high blood sugar, it can go into overdrive and flood your system with stored glucose first thing in the morning. Understanding this mechanism and learning the simple evening habits that can control it is the missing piece of the puzzle for so many people. The things you do tonight can determine your health for the next 10 years. The choices are small. The payoff is monumental. Use the test. Understand the signals. And most importantly, don't wait for a diagnosis to tell you something your body has been trying to say for a long time.